Hey guys, AshFiMon here, and a few years ago I applied for a lot of my paperwork in Jamaica, and since then I'd get inquiries from relatives and acquaintances that pretty much just asked me about my process and what are some things they needed to know before they apply as well. So I figured if they had questions, other people in the diaspora probably have questions too, so I figured I'd collate all of my experience together and create a mini web series where that way I can be of resource to you. So this video is actually video number 2, where we're going to be talking all about citizenship by descent, and if you missed the first video, I talked all about TRN, and I'll link all that information below. I have my notes, so I'm not forgetting any important information. So Jamaica has 6 different categories on how a person can gain citizenship. They are by birth, descent, meaning you're a descendant of a Jamaican citizen, adoption, which means you were adopted in Jamaica, marriage, naturalization, registration of a Commonwealth national, registration of a minor, and citizenship in case of doubt. So those are 6 different categories. Most people would probably fall in between like birth, descent, or adoption, marriage, or naturalization. Now, the benefits of becoming a Jamaican citizen, which is pretty much similar benefits that you would gain if you were a citizen of any country, would be you're able to obtain a passport, you can work without a permit, you can register to vote, you can file for a spouse or a child to become a citizen, there's a certain allotment of duty-free allowance that's allotted to you at customs, you have access to government programs, and you are exempt from international school fees. Now, unlike America, you do not have to physically swear in. You don't even have to take a citizenship test. So with this remember, this is for citizenship by descent. No tests, no swearing in. You literally just have to apply. Now, I'm not sure if you have to give up your other citizenships. Now, I'm no immigration expert. I'm not an attorney, but you would probably want to seek out that information based on the country in which you reside, or if you so happen to work in a certain type of industry where that may come up. However, I'm going to assume and say no, you don't have to give up your other foreign citizenship, simply because Jamaica itself does honor dual citizens. They consider someone applying for their citizenship, especially by descent, part of your birthright, even if you weren't born in Jamaica. So that simply means you have to have at least one parent or grandparent who is Jamaican in order for you to apply. Now, again, you would want to check with an attorney or whatever the laws are in the country in which you reside, but Jamaica itself does honor dual citizenship, and it is part of your birthright. Now, what are the requirements? So you need your original birth certificate. Why can't Jamaica say that word? Birth certificate. You need your original photo ID, or an original photo ID. You need the original birth certificate or citizenship decree of the parent or grandparent you are applying under. You need 2 notarized passport size photos. You need your filled out application, and you need your payment. And if this applies to you, I can't talk today apparently. If this applies to you, you need to submit a marriage certificate or an official change of name document, meaning if you have then changed your name, that is different from your birth certificate. Now, I'm going to go in a bit detail because this information is extremely important. So pay close attention. So when I say original and when PICA says original, they do mean original or a certified copy. So I know what you're probably wondering. You're like, Ash, listen, I was born 20, 30, 40 or beyond years ago. I really don't know where my birth paper is. Or you know where it is, or it looks like it's been through the wire. Your birth certificate cannot look altered in any kind of way. It cannot be laminated. It cannot have tears, rips. It cannot have no coffee stains, dust mites, nothing. It pretty much needs to be as clean as Jesus police record, as a running joke is. I'm sure you guys have probably heard of that saying through the social media channels. So it has to be as much as a pristine copy of your birth paper. Now, hopefully you guys have good record keeping and you know where your birth paper is, but you need to find it, if you are going to apply for citizenship. Now, let's say you do know where it is, but you feel like you're not sure if PICA is going to accept it. Now, if you feel you need to dial a lifeline, chances are they probably won't. And I'm telling you from now, PICA is very particular on the documents that you submit. So make sure you take heed to the following requirements. Now, if for some reason you don't think they're going to accept it, you can absolutely request a certified copy of your birth paper from the Vital Records Office in the state of the country in which you were born in. So, for example, if you currently live in Connecticut, but you were born in Georgia, you need to contact the Vital Records Office in Georgia to ask for a certified copy of your birth paper. Now, a lot of the times these things can be done online or you can mail that in, and it's normally a nominal fee. I know here in Florida, I think through the Vital Records Office to request a certified copy, I believe it's about $13 US. So it is a very nominal fee. However, you are going to need to request a certified copy of your birth paper. Vital Records offices usually have records of birth, death, marriage, and which, that jurisdiction in which they oversee, I should say. Now, you're also going to need a valid photo ID. So you can submit a passport, a foreign-based passport, or a driver's license. Of course, make sure it is not expired because you cannot apply for something on an expired ID. Then you're going to need, and pay very close attention to this. Now, all of this is important, but pay extra special attention to this part. You are going to need the original birth paper of the parent or grandparent in who you are applying under, or their citizenship decree. So let's just say, for example, and by the way, PICA has no restriction on whether it has to be a mom or dad or grandma or grandpa. It just needs to be one person, especially if you come from a whole family where everybody is Jamaican. You need to only apply under one person. So let's just say you're going to apply under your dad, and your dad name is John Doe. That's JOHNDOE. Now, John needs to know where his birth paper is, and I get it. Now, if you can't find your birth paper, you're like, how in God's green earth is my dad, John, going to find his birth paper? Again, hopefully you guys have been keeping good records of your documents. However, he needs the original. And if he doesn't know where the original is, he's going to need to request a certified copy from RGD, which is the Registrar's General Department in Jamaica. It's equivalent to like the Vital Records Office, because RGD has records of birth, marriage, and death in Jamaica. Now, he needs to find it. Now, I know my parents, they have like the long form birth paper. Well, technically this is wide, but you know what I mean, the old style birth paper. But they're going to need to find it. And again, same thing. If they do have it, it cannot look altered or ripped or torn or laminated or anything like that. It cannot look altered in any kind of way, because I'm telling you from now, PICA will not accept that birth paper. They won't. So you're going to need to request a certified copy. And I get it. You're excited to get your citizenship, and this is now kind of just like holding up the process. But I'm telling you from now, folks, go ahead and do it this way, because you're going to save time and you're going to really save just on stress alone of wasting your time and going to PICA and not getting through because you didn't listen to me. Now, keep in note that if the spelling, now this is also very important, the spelling on your birth paper, so you're going to apply under your dad, and your dad's name is John Doe. On your birth paper, you, the applicant, it is spelled JOHNDOE. So guess what? That means on his birth paper, it needs to read exactly the same. It cannot read anything different, not even by a letter. So let's say John's middle name is Rupert. On his birth paper, if it reads John Rupert Doe or even John R. Doe, guess what? They're not going to accept it either, because in PICA's eyes, it could be two different people, which I totally understand. So you are going to have to get that amended somehow, some way, whether through that's RGD or maybe even your vital records office for your birth paper. Now you're going to have to see, I guess, which one really makes more logical sense, which one is faster, which one is cheaper. But I'm telling you guys, the birth paper of you, the applicant, or the parent on who you're applying under, it needs to be a clean copy. And the spelling has to be verbatim. If not, you're going to have to get that amended. Now, what the process is to do that or request a certified copy of the birth paper, RGD, you're going to have to contact them and go through that agency to figure it out. However, I do know that normally if you could apply on behalf of a parent, they may have to submit some like authorized, notarized documentation, but that is probably something that you can do. And I know they're going to need a birth registration number, which is printed on the birth certificate application. Probably starts with like a B and like some numbers after, maybe like 2 or 3 numbers after it. Now, if you don't even know where the birth paper is at all, you can still request a certified copy. However, I think they do have a way to look up the record without having the birth registration number. Now that might be more money and it may take more time, but just keep in mind of that specifics. So let's say you got all that sorted out, hopefully. You are then going to need to submit 2 notarized passport photos. Now, Jamaica has very strict photo requirements on what their pictures have to look like. And here you see a whole laundry list of the photo requirements. Keep in note that they need to be verbatim. For example, you cannot smile, no teeth like a D's, like my grandma used to say. You cannot smile in any photos, in any of Jamaica's like passport style photos whatsoever. So just keep in mind of the photo requirements when you do so. Then you need to then get 2 of those photos notarized by a JP. And then you need to fill out your application. The application is actually very simple to fill out. It's extremely simple. And this is kind of like what the application looks like through PICA. It's very easy to fill out. You're going to fill out that application and you can like print that online, or you can go to any PICA location island-wide to request a form. And then you need to have your payment. We'll talk about payment and processing times in a minute. And then if this does apply to you, if you did eventually get married or divorced, or again, you just simply change your name because your name can no longer serve you, you're going to want to show the original or certified copy of that marriage certificate or that official change of name document or so on. And again, if you don't know where that is, the Vital Records Office will have record of that based on where you got married or divorced or so on. Now, I do hope you guys are paying attention, because all those requirements and the very specifics are very important. Now, the fees, and this was for when you are applying in Jamaica itself. Now, the fees and the processing time. So Jamaica has regular service, which is about 25 business days at about 10,000 JM, which would be like 100 US. And they also have expediting services, which is about 15 days at 15,000 JM. Now, the payment options are as follows. All fees are non-refundable. And when you are applying in Jamaica, all payments will be run in local currency, which means in JM dollars. They will not accept your US dollars. They're not going to accept your Canadian, the pound, the euro, or whatever other foreign currency that you have. They are only going to accept JM dollars. So you can pay in cash, and you can also use a Visa or MasterCard, credit card or debit card with that logo, or a key card. So if you are using a foreign-based credit card, as long as it has a Visa or MasterCard logo, you'll be good to go. But just do understand that they will be running it in JM dollars. So you may want to figure out like your banking situation to see if they will charge you a foreign transaction fee. Now, PICA won't charge you a foreign transaction fee, but your bank, especially if it's a foreign-based card, probably will. So you'd have to see if that is a card that does have foreign transaction fees or it doesn't. Now, if you are applying at your local consulate or high commissions abroad, they're only going to accept the foreign, not the local currency in the country in which you reside. So again, if you're applying at your local CG's office, here in America, they're only going to accept US dollars and so on. So, which brings us to, how do you apply? Now, you're probably wondering, can I apply online? No, you cannot. This is not something you can apply for online. You can get information online, but you cannot actually put in your application online. So the real two ways on how you can apply is either in person at any PICA location island-wide, or at your local consulate or high commissions abroad. Now, you are going to want to be very wary, not very wary, but very careful of any extra special requirements or processes that your local CG may have. Now, all the requirements I told you are for if you're applying in Jamaica. Now, obviously, the local CG requirements will look exactly like that, but it may be additional requirements because you're going through like a separate agency. Now, if you apply in person, again, follow my rules, all the requirements to the T, and you shouldn't hopefully have any other problems. Now, if you have very special situations, you probably should contact PICA. They actually do a very good job at responding to DMs on Facebook and inquiries. So at any point during your process, before, during, or after, if you ever have any questions, you can contact PICA that way. Now, when you do apply in person, you can have somebody else pick up your citizenship decree on your behalf, assuming you're still not going to be in the country to pick it up. Just let the clerk know, and they will give you like this application or form. So then that way you would be able to hand it over to that person, and along with like the official receipt that you paid, and they will be able to pick it up on your behalf. Now, again, if you're applying overseas at your local consulate or high commissions, their fees, like I mentioned before, and the processing times that I mentioned are going to look different because you're applying abroad and there may be additional fees, longer processing times, and longer wait times. Do understand, though, that your local consulate and high commissions, they don't process your paperwork in like the back office. They don't do that there. They are simply a liaison service for between like the government of Jamaica and like the community in which they like proceed over. So they're just facilitators. So they don't actually process it in their office. They still have to send it to Jamaica, to PICA, specifically to the head office, which is in Kingston. So please keep note and record of that. Now, there's times where PICA may hold local remote drives locally or abroad. Now, you may want to check. Normally, they probably would like work in tandem with like the local consulate or so. But that is always like an option. But really, the only two ways to apply is either in person or at your local CG's office. Now, in case you're wondering, how do I find out where my local consulate or high commission's office is? Now, you can simply Google search the local consulate of Jamaica near and enter your city or your zip code. Now, I'm in South Florida, and luckily for me, my local CG is probably like a good 20 or 30 minutes away, the office. So, but for you, that may not be the case. Your local CG might be another state or states over. So, for example, my CG, Oliver Mayer, he jurisdicts over the whole southern region. So I think that might be 13 states, including Bahamas and Cayman Island. So if you live in Texas, for example, the nearest CG may not be in Texas. So you may want to keep that in mind in terms of what that's going to look like for you when you apply. And if that's something that you can do through the mail if you're nowhere near, instead of having to go in through the office. But when you Google search to find your local consulate, their contact information is going to come up, and they all have websites. That is your best bet to check their website to see exactly what's required, what's needed, their processing times, and everything. And then from there, you can go ahead and contact somebody at your office to see what the steps might be. because it is citizenship, you may have to go do this in person. Now, don't quote me on it. Go ahead and do your due diligence. Go ahead and do your research. But that is something that you may have to apply in person. So if you live in like the next couple of states over and your CG, is nowhere near you, you may have to eventually take a trip to wherever your local consulate is to apply. But again, don't quote me on it. Go ahead and do your research. And again, you can find all this information. At your local consulate's office website, because they will have, again, as I said, special requirements, additional processes, and specifically like processing times, because remember, they send your application to Jamaica, to PICA at the head office in Kingston. So they're simply a liaison service. They just facilitate your application. Now, that is all about applying for Jamaican citizenship, specifically by descent. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. And again, if you ever have any additional questions, you can contact PICA. They do a very good job at responding to inquiries on Facebook, I can at least say, when you DM them. Now, I will share my citizenship story in a separate story time video because, it's a bit eventful of a story. So I didn't want to bulk it all into one for the video to be excessively long. So it will be in a separate story time video where I'll be detailing about my citizenship process of applying for that in Jamaica. So if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. Thank you in advance for tuning in. Thank you in advance for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And again, if you know somebody that will find this information helpful, beneficial, please do your due diligence. Don't be stingy. Share the wealth. Until next time, you can link up with me online everywhere at AshFiMon. Until next time, thanks for tuning in and have a good day.